We start off visiting with James Arnold. He's the president of ABC Bank, and we're talking a little bit about the Lubbock and West Texas economy. And James, welcome back. How are you, man?
Chad, I'm doing great. Happy summer.
Yeah, it's a little warm out.
It's a little warm out. I think all over Texas is burning up right now.
Yeah, I think so. We have you in today talking a little bit about the local economy, what we're seeing. How are things looking with the economy here locally?
You know, our latest report kind of showed a little bit of growth over the overall index that we track, but some major kind of variables and major things we track, retail sales were really off about 2%, and automobile sales and purchases, you know, they were off about 18% for the month, a big variance. And then we look at home permits in May were off. So some of the key metrics that we track for the month showed some slippage. It just bears watching to see if that is just a 1 month variance or are we developing a trend. And so this was the first time we've seen a retreat on some of our key indexes in a long time.
Well, is there any reason why that may be? Is it one of those that our economy has just been so good here that eventually you're going to see a little bit of a slip at some point?
I think that's part of it. I think it's been so good for so long, and for Lubbock, it's been really robust. So that's part of it. I think maybe we may be seeing some effects of low energy prices on, you know, we're now in probably month 18 of an oil retreat.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. But I think another part of it is it's been so good for so long, it bears a correction, maybe a minor one. So we'll watch it and see what happens at this time next month and see where we are.
But it's not something that when you're looking at this right now, nothing to be too concerned about.
No, one of the key things you look at, Chad, is you look at the average sales price for Lubbock, and we're up 8.1% through the year. For Lubbock, I haven't seen anywhere near a two-digit growth like that in a long time, maybe ever. So that tells me that we're moving product. Our home sales are strong, and our values are strong. So we're not having to cut prices of homes to move inventory. So that's a key indicator that the fundamentals are still good. But when retail sales slip and automobile purchases slip, it bears watching. So far, I think we still are sitting on a solid economy.
Is this when you're in a presidential election year and there's uncertainty? We hear about uncertainty with the stock market and how that can play a role. And obviously, when we had a few weeks ago, Brexit going on, you had a shake up there just for a couple of days. Now everything has sort of corrected itself. Presidential election year, there's a lot of uncertainty. Does that trickle down to the average consumer if they want to buy a car, want to buy a house, or if they're at least looking at that, if they see uncertainty on the horizon, do they kind of hold off on that?
You know, probably not this early in the presidential election cycle, but as we get into the fall, I think you'll see some of that. And yes, it does trickle down to local economies. You know, remember, 75% of a local economy is based on retail sales and housing. So that's why we track those every single month, because that gives us a good indicator and we can identify trends. But as we get closer to November, I think you'll see people really start to second guesses. Do we buy that house? Do we buy that car? Maybe we just wait and see what happens in January.
Any good news in the report that came out?
Yeah, we're number 3 in the state in unemployment. We're sitting at 3.1%. So anything below 4 is considered fully employed, meaning anybody that wants a job in Lubbock, there is a job for them.
Yeah.
So we're fully employed. Our employment growth, we're 4th in the state in employment growth.
Wow.
So we're not setting the world on fire in terms of creating new jobs. We're very solid at number 4 in the state. And so, yeah, our economy and our employment growth are all solid numbers. And when you look at home sales prices, home volume of homes sold, we're doing pretty good.
You know, I think one thing that was interesting also is hotel spending. I saw that was up, which may surprise people.
You know, there are probably 9, 10, or 11 hotel projects either under construction or on the drawing board in the approval process with the city today, right now.
Yeah.
And every time they come online, they fill up. And so we continue to show that if you build it, they will come kind of a theory. Mm-hmm. All these hotels coming online, they have great occupancies.
Well, and like you said, they are full. I've seen so many numbers of the hotel rates when I guess the occupancy rate, when every week it seems like there's something going on in Lubbock or around Lubbock that our hotels are just full. And I think it would surprise the average citizen because, you ask the average citizen, do you think we have a lot of visitors in this town? Probably a lot of people would say no, that we're not a tourist destination. But you look at the hotels, it's hard to say that.
You go to the hotels and you go to Covenant UMC and you see a lot of New Mexico license plates, people coming into town for retail sales and healthcare. And so those are two big drivers of our economy. And then you've also got the big gorilla at Texas Tech that, on any given day, some department's having people come in. So the growth of Texas Tech and the growth of our healthcare sector only further, propagates our hotel industry.
Visiting with James Arnold, president of ABC Bank. James, you brought up earlier that, new permits for homes, I guess for construction permits, that those were down. Is that I guess a symptom of where we're getting to the point where we're catching up as far as houses go and the amount of people who want to get into a brand new home, or is that just people don't have the money to build a new home?
I think it's a couple of things, Chad. I think number one, we saw such growth in the first quarter of the year and the early second quarter of the year for new permits. And so the city, even though there may be an influx, we're up 5% this year. We were up a larger percentage earlier in the year. They still had the same number of people processing those permits. So there was a little bit of a backlog. So I think we're seeing that kind of catch up to itself now, number one. Two, we're a market dominated by community banks and community builders. We don't have D.R. Horton Homes and these large manufacturing companies, housing companies that go in and they'll permit 200 lots at one time. So the community banks and community builders work together to balance supply and demand. And so they just flux up and down to meet what the demand is. And so I think there's part of that going on. And that's a healthy market, and you want to see some of that. What I don't want to see is permits continuing to rise when home sales are flat. Then you're just building capacity, you're building inventory, and then you get to where you've got to cut prices to sell product. And so it looks to me a very solid and healthy housing market in Lubbock, and that just is indicative of a healthy economy.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like it.
Yeah.
It certainly seems like everything's good on that front. You okay to hang around one more segment?
You bet.
All right. When we come back, we'll continue our visit with James Arnold, president of ABC Bank. We'll talk about the economy, where we might be going from here, and once those tech students show back up and once football season hits, we could probably expect for the economy to soar even higher. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. We have the president of American Bank of Commerce, ABC Bank, James Arnold, in studio. We've been talking about the Lubbock economy. James, we talked about a little bit of a slip as far as the index goes. Nothing to be concerned about, obviously, for the elected officials or anyone else out there. Where do you see the economy for Lubbock the rest of this summer? What historically, what does the Lubbock economy do during the summer?
Well, it kind of goes sideways a little bit, and then, if you count August as the summer, we'll come out of that in August. Like you mentioned earlier, when Texas Tech shows back up, we always see a bump in the economy across the board. And, when you have, 35,000 students, 38,000 students kind of show up on your front doorstep, it can do nothing but help the economy go up.
Yeah.
The things we're watching, obviously oil and gas, we're off 22% from this time last year. Commodities aren't really doing very well. Price of cotton's down about 5% from this time last year, and it wasn't good last year. And there's no price protection anymore, so that it is what it is. So that's going to continue to put a strain on our economy, and that may be why we're seeing some slippage in retail sales and automobile sales. Is the agribusiness community can see the future of what's going to happen, so they're maybe pulling back on some spending. And then, cattle's down too. So commodities for West Texas across the board have seen better days. And so it'll be mixed. We'll have some, inside the loop, so to speak, we'll have a good economy. But out in our agricultural communities, we may see some struggling.
Well, and that's something that absolutely affects Lubbock because, it's called the hub city for a reason, that you have all of these communities that are outside of Lubbock. They come in, whether it be in eastern New Mexico or just around Lubbock. They come into Lubbock, spend money, go to dinner, do their shopping, whatever they need to do. And if the ag related community is slipping, that can't be good for the city.
It's not, and it's been so good for so long, people forget about it. But Lubbock's a three-legged stool economically. It's healthcare, it's education, and it's agriculture. And people see healthcare because they drive by it, they consume it, they understand Texas Tech. But if you don't drive from here to Level Land down to Sundown, wherever, you don't realize the impact that ag has on this community, and it's huge. And so I hope we can weather the storm, but I think Lubbock will feel the effects of that in the first quarter of next year.
Visiting with James Arnold, president of ABC Bank in studio. Let's talk a little bit about ABC Bank, and you've been at ABC Bank now for, a few months now, right?
Almost 6 months.
Yeah.
It's a great place. We're a community bank in this market. We have locations in Dallas and Austin and Colorado. Our home base is Wolforth. That's where we got our start over 50 years ago. And we're a traditional community bank. We invest in our community. We give back. We do a lot of real estate lending. We do a lot of small business lending. Community banks are the backbone of most communities because they invest in their communities with charitable contributions, volunteer hours, but more importantly, they finance small businesses, and that's what keeps towns like Wolforth and Lubbock and all over the West Texas area in business. Yeah,
and of course, many locations. You can log on to theabcbank.com and find all of the different locations. Let's talk a little bit about the national economy. I know you mainly focus on our region and statewide. The national economy, how are things really looking at it's middle of campaign season. Everyone's focused on the economy. That's one of the drivers of the presidential election. When you look at the national economy, what type of things do you look for?
Well, you look for job growth and job creation. That's where it starts. And when you look at it on a national level, when you look at both coasts, Pacific and Atlantic coasts, good economies, good job growth, a solid tax base, all those kind of things. As you move inward into the country, take Texas out of the mix for a minute. Mm-hmm. When you take Texas out and you look in the kind of the middle of the country, the flyover states, as they say, they're struggling to create jobs. They're struggling to find traction in the economy, and they have since 2009. And so you look at Kansas, for example. You look at Missouri. You look at upper Midwest, the Rust Belt states. They're struggling to find their way. Cleveland's had a resurgence recently of some new job growth, but by and large, our economy does well on the coast, and they struggle in the center of our country.
Yeah. I had a question that came in about the Lubbock economy and what areas you think that the local economy could diversify.
Well, technology is always big, and so we're seeing some technology diversification within the agricultural business. We're seeing a lot of that happening, and Texas Tech continues to look to ways to spin off jobs and spin off companies from things that have been incubated within Texas Tech, whether it's in engineering, whether it's in the business school, agricultural, or the architecture school. There's some small businesses that are trying to launch that have been created by professors at Texas Tech and patented and those kind of things. So diversification, technology is big, and how technology finds its way into healthcare and agriculture is going to be big for Lubbock.
When we had the folks for mayor who were running, or the candidates who were running for mayor, one of the things they talked about was bringing jobs into Lubbock. Obviously, we're pretty good on that front. What would bringing the higher paying, and that's something that I know even I think our new mayor talked about, was bringing those higher paying jobs into Lubbock. How easy do you think that is? And if you are able to bring in some of those more higher paying jobs instead of just restaurant jobs, what does that do? How could that change the economy in Lubbock?
Well, the easy answer is those folks buy bigger cars, they buy bigger houses, and that continues to help the economy. Yeah. And they spend more money in retail sales. But it's a chicken or egg deal. So how do we get those high-paying jobs to, instead of going to Austin and Dallas and San Antonio, how do we get them to come out here to West Texas? And that's what I think Mayor Pope and the city council is going to struggle with, and I have confidence in them, is to attract those. And I think one of them is quality of life. I think one of them is weather, especially in the summertime. I know it's hot, But we have good weather here. We have good traffic flow. You can get to and from anywhere in 10 minutes. And as Austin continues to choke down on traffic, as the Metroplex continues, I think this millennial generation is looking for quality of life, maybe more than some other things. And so I think if we can appeal to our fantastic quality of life, our access to Big 12 athletics and Big 12 events, I think that's where Lubbock can, hopefully in the next 20 years, begin to attract some high-paying big business jobs that may have gone east in the past. We can capture and retain them here. Visiting
with James Arnold. He's the president of ABC Bank. You can go on to theabcbank.com for more information. We've been talking about the local economy, auto sales. Those have taken a sort of a downturn, but those spike. Those go up and down, and I think that we see throughout the year. Is that something where, as we get closer to the end of the year, you're going to see, I think, more car sales or car deals that go on? Something that we'll probably see another spike in the closer to the end of the year we get.
We used to see a spike in the August, September area, back to school kind of stuff, and then it'll level off, and then what they call note season, as people turn over the calendar year, January, February, March, what they call note season in the used car business, because people get their tax return back, they get a refund, and they take that refund, and that's their down payment for a used car. So we'll see it kind of continue to probably stay flat-ish. We'll see a spike in September or August, and then it'll stay flat again. And then January, we should see some lift in terms of sales. And so that's, again, it bears watching. That's our first dip we've had in auto purchases in a while. Yeah. So it may just be an anomaly, and we'll move forward. Maybe next month it'll be back up.
Yeah. Lubbock, Texas, still a great place. Start a business and a small business, and you can help people out at ABC Bank, right?
We make small business loans, SBA loans, real estate loans. We're in the business of small business. And so if anybody has any questions or would love to visit, come see us at ABC Bank.
All right. James, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad.